This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Kia ora koutou, you are listening to Left From Nowhere, a radio show here on Otago Access Radio 105.4 FM, 1575 AM, and that happens to be a show to which you are listening right now, just sponsored by the Otago Socialist Society. I am your host, Tyler West, and happen to be a member of the society myself. Today, we're having a cordial discussion with some members of the International Socialist Organisation. They are a different socialist group to us, and they are also active here in Dunedin. And we're going to have a general chat about our respective kind of perspectives on socialism, what our respective organisations do, and just generally kind of maybe give the listener a little of a peek into the kind of the way in which different socialist groups work together, and kind of a bit of an insight into the movement rather than just one group, kind of the movement as a whole. We're going to do that. And towards the end, of course, I, as always, have a couple of things that I'm going to spruik at you, both events that are coming up and also, of course, as I end every show with, a couple of reviews as well. So, with all of that said, we're going to get into the actual discussion side of things, and I'd like to introduce Cian and Oscar from the International Socialist Organisation. How are yous going?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, all good.
Yeah, cool. So I'll get you can pick between you which one, but I'll get you to just give yourselves a brief introduction, and then we can get into talking about the ISO itself and what the ISO does and how it practices politics.
I can go first.
Okay.
I'm Cian. I've been a member with ISO for a few years now. Just I'm studying at the university at the moment, and I've been interested in socialist politics for a while, so happy to be here and happy to have a chat.
Yeah. Awesome. Oscar?
Yeah, haven't been in the organisation for quite so long. I think I'm approaching my third year. Which is cool. I'm a member of the local branch committee, so I do a lot of the local organising down here. I'm also a member of the national coordinating committee, so I do a lot of cross-branch coordination with the organisation. And I'm also an activist for various different things: union activist, Palestine activist. Just get up to a bunch. So yeah.
That's a way better intro than I gave.
I mean, it's when you're in socialist politics, it's always the way that it's never just one group that you're involved with. It's always a lot of stuff. It's always a lot of stuff. So the International Socialists, when I did my master's degree, actually wrote a history of the ISO, but I think it would be a bit poor form for me to be the one telling you about your own group. But do you just want to maybe give a kind of insight from the inside about just what the International Socialists, kind of your general perspective on things, and how you practice politics as well? What does being an ISO member mean?
Yeah. Well, do you want to do a history of how we came to be, or what we get up to now? I
think get up to now. I think the listeners might be interested to know, if they bump into the ISO, what are you guys up to?
Yeah. So in Otipoti, we get up to a whole bunch. So kind of the core of our activity comes around our weekly meetings. We have weekly meetings every Wednesday at 6 p.m. where we talk about a whole range of topics. A lot of them are quite theory-based. A lot of them aren't. We do what is socialism, reform, revolution, stuff like that, but also the rise of the far right, or a current events kind of topic. But that is by no means kind of the end of what we do. We do public meetings. We get everyone along. We also get into a whole bunch of activism. ISO down here in Otipoti, kind of our recent activity, activism-wise, has been, we founded Otago Students for Justice in Palestine, which has been a lot of our work. Back in 2023, we were quite involved in Protect Otago Action Group. and a whole bunch of stuff in between. So yeah, I guess we get up to a lot of, meetings, organization building, and a lot of activism.
Yeah, and that's kind of that sort of stuff has always kind of been the bread and butter of socialism, as it were. It's you do a lot of you've got your own group and you keep that group going, and then you try and recruit people and then kind of educate people and whatnot, and then at the same time you're involved in the politics of the day as well. So with the ISO, you guys do this weekly meeting. It's usually, or it's pretty much always at Clubs and Socks on campus.
Yep.
And maybe just tell us a little bit about a couple of your recent events and what kind of response have you been getting these days, like in terms of the people coming along and their engagement with things.
Yeah. Well, the thing that popped to my mind, I don't know if it's the most recent, no, it wasn't the most recent meeting, but we had this meeting on a little bit of a history of the student politics movements, and we just sort of presented, or had some speakers present a few vignettes on, there was the Korean students movement. Obviously, there's quite a big history over there in terms of fighting for democracy in the country. Then we had someone talk about I guess it was Thursdays in Black or whatever. Or
what was it? Oh, we're terrible.
Oh, we're terrible. And then we had Brian Roper, actually. I don't know if people know him, but we had him talk about just sort of a general why should we do student politics and sort of the history of sort of things in New Zealand more particularly. And I think recently we just had Oscar do a talk. That was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think, was that the last meeting? I think it was.
I feel like it was.
The last, so that was actually the most recent public meeting we had. Like, we have public meetings and branch meetings. Of course, branch meetings are open to everyone, but public meetings are ones where we put out a bunch of posters everywhere and we try and get everyone along. Kind of most recent branch meeting we had was on industrial action, which, I gave a talk to branch. Smaller meeting than usual, but oh well. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff. The power of workers and their labour and whatnot. And it kind of, at the end, concluded. We had a little motion. There's a protest coming up, the Defend Public Services thing that we're co-organising with a bunch of unions. And we passed a motion at that meeting to, put our heart and soul into that and try and get as many people along as possible. But this year's actually been really good for us for meetings and engagement and turnout and stuff. In a bunch of different ways. Branch meetings have been growing quite a bit. Our membership this year has gone up quite a bit. We've had some really well-attended branch meetings. I think the best one we had this year was The Rise of the Far Right, which is one we did.
Oh, yeah.
Where we packed out the Otago room, standing room only. It was really good. So that's kind of the recent meetings stuff we've been up to.
Yeah, and getting a little bit into the more current eventsy stuff, it has been, particularly with the public sector unions, there's been a lot of activity in the last few years. I think it's partially post-COVID, probably partially you can, loath as I am to ever admit it, thank Labour for, I think the previous Labour government for giving things a bit of a kick with their brief and, as it turns out, failed fair pay agreement scheme, which was something of a return to arbitration from back in the day. Arbitration being something that has not existed in either my own or either of your lifetimes.
No.
But there's definitely been, whatever the causes, there's definitely been a kick in that. And I think it could be a bit of a fruitful direction for the conversation to talk a little bit about how the ISO relates itself to unions, and I'll give you the floor for that, and I'll chat a little bit about the same from my own organisation, and hopefully something fruitful will come from that. So you've put forward a motion for your branch to really get stuck in with this upcoming demonstration. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, the kind of way I'll talk about like our general approach to unions and then that maybe. Yeah, so I mean, unions are where the workers are kind of at the moment. I mean, not even most of them really, but like unions are where organized workers are, like where generally the most kind of politically conscious workers are. At the moment, kind of across the world, we're in a bit of a down slump in terms of kind of working class activism, union membership. In New Zealand, a lot of that to do with, the legislation we were just talking about with Contracts Act and all that fun stuff. But yeah, like, so we do quite a bit of rank and file engagement with unions. So, like, to be an ISO member, you have to be a member of your union if you're in work. And yeah, so we get up to a bunch of rank and file stuff. And those are for our members who are workers, but, as you'll know, ISO at this stage is mainly campus oriented. But the kind of way we've gotten into organizing this protest with all these unions is we've been at a lot of picket lines recently, like the recent McDonald's strike. A whole bunch of our members were there, leading chants and all that fun stuff, and all the teacher strikes and all this and yada yada yada. And I think we're getting like something of like a good reputation, the way kind of like the current like protest thing kind of came about was chats with the regional chair for the PPTA down here at the teacher strike, and engagement in Unions Otago, the local CTU affiliate, and that kind of resulted in us getting invited to these organizing meetings for these protests, which kind of started as us coming to those and lending more kind of like material support, like, we have like speakers, we have like gazebos and stuff that we can use for this and yada yada yada. It's kind of morphed into more engagement, because with our membership at the moment being larger than it has been in the past, we've been able to do lots of postering, lots of leafleting, lots of stuff like that. So that's kind of the kind of stuff we committed to in the branch. So it kind of evolved like that, just being there, being on the ground, getting invited to meetings, and then organising stuff.
Yeah, and I think there is a lesson in that, especially for, I think, a lot of the audience for this is people who, some of them are reasonably experienced in kind of formal organised politics, but a lot of them will be hearing some of the stuff that I talk about on this show for maybe not the first time, but might be the first time they've heard a socialist perspective on it. And I think a good lesson that you've illustrated very well there is that it really is just a matter of getting stuck in. The way you kind of get involved in this kind of formal organising world and trying to make a political difference with things is that you do the hard yards, as it were. You go along to pickets and you get to know the people who are taking industrial action or who are organising in industries. And if you're interested in getting involved, then that's kind of the way to do it, is just kind of turn up. Yeah. You mentioned earlier, actually no, I'll talk a little bit about the socialist society side of things. So we have a pretty good relationship with Unions Otago. Some of our members are members of kind of Unions Otago's, I don't know if they've got an organising committee or what it's specifically called, but the kind of leadership of Unions Otago. And we try and do similar. We're a bit thinner on the ground generally because our membership is a bit older. It's a lot more people with kids and stuff like that. But in saying that, we have a pretty good relationship with organisers in a number of unions, and we've got organisers in a number of unions among our ranks. And we try and play a bit of a facilitating role between a lot of different unions and organised groups in the kind of industrial field. And yeah, I think there's a lot of synchronicity between what we do and what you guys do as well. You did mention earlier that ISO was involved in establishing Otago Students for Justice in Palestine. I'm a bit older than you, and I remember the last time there was an Otago Students for Justice in Palestine back around kind of the early mid-2010s, so about 10 years ago now. And things kind of fizzled out for a bit. So there was a need for the group to be refounded. So why don't you talk a little bit about kind of the way you work with people who might not necessarily be in the ISO, but who are very invested in that particular campaign and that particular issue. Talk a little bit about the setting up of this, I think, very, very worthwhile and useful campus group.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I didn't even know there was an Otago Students for Justice in Palestine before this one. So, yeah, that's news. But, yeah, definitely. I mean, the founding process was pretty straightforward. I think, what was this? I think it was in the wake of all of the, like, encampments and stuff popping off at, like, Columbia University across the states. And kind of with that very, like, relevant ongoings. We had a meeting on it in Branch, and essentially... we put forward a motion to found an Otago Students for Justice in Palestine branch. So what that kind of looked like was we were like, right, we need to have a founding meeting. We need to try and get as many people who aren't ISO as possible into a room. So yeah, we set up. Oh, actually, before that, we had a pre-meeting meeting where we kind of like did less of like a big public everyone come, more of like a let's reach out to like everyone in our channels and try and get as many people in for this like pre kind of organizing meeting to maybe get something of a core going. And that turned out quite well just through like word of mouth and getting people along. We got high teens into like a room, which was quite good, mostly not ISO members. And then we had the effort to get as many people as possible into like a founding public meeting to talk about what we're about, kind of stuff we wanted to get involved with, and all that. That was kind of one of the first like big like ground campaigns I was kind of involved in ISO. Like we went and we made a whole bunch of posters, a whole bunch of leaflets, spoke to a whole bunch of different people, and we just kind of like plastered campus with stuff and was like, come to this, and kind of had no idea how many people would or if people would be like interested in coming to that kind of thing. But we completely packed the room. It was crazy. It was like out the door. People were like in the hall. Maybe like 80, 90 people, like that kind of thing. It was really cool. And the discussions in that were really awesome. And we did get a bunch of not ISO people into the organizing core at the start. Funnily enough, many of them are now ISO members, but that's just how it goes, I suppose. But yeah, that's kind of how that happened. And then everything went from there. We had that meeting, then we were like, let's have another one. Then it's like, let's have a protest. Let's nail down our demands. Let's do all that stuff. So that's kind of how it went.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's probably the most of it there.
Yeah. It's when I first got involved in things, it was a bit of a nadir for student politics. So my efforts back in the day were met with a bit less success than your efforts have been met with. But it is a very good thing to see. I'm very much of the opinion that you organise where you are. So I am on campus a fair bit, but as a PhD student, and my kind of political outlook is a bit more intellectual. So I take part of the reason I'm a member of the Socialist Society is it's a very strong educational focus. It's very open. It's very about getting people who might be interested in the ideas or curious or even kind of combative and getting them in the room to say, this is more than just people who are disenfranchised and a bit of a rabble and disaffected and whatnot. There is serious intellectual heft here, and it's a bit of a demand to be taken seriously, as it were. But in saying that, with a campus-based organisation, you organise where you are. If you're mostly students, then you organise on campus. And I think it's I think it's been very heartening, especially for some of us who are a bit older, who are kind of in that bracket that kind of missed out the earlier 90s wave of student activism and are a bit older for this current 2020s wave of student activism. It's been really heartening to see just such a big response from students to like pressing international issues like that. I did want to chat a little bit about One thing that I wanted to chat a little bit was just about your own kind of perspectives on socialism and what it was that drew you to the ISO. Obviously, being one of not very many groups active in Dunedin, it's I know there's an element of you just go to the one that fits, but interested in kind of your own perspectives on what does socialism mean to you and what is it about the ISO that you find kind of really fits with that?
Big question, eh?
Yeah.
Let's see. I joined the ISO maybe in 2022 or something like that. I'd been, I think during the lockdown, I was getting into socialist politics, and then the lockdown happened and there was quite a massive surge in probably online leftist spaces popping up and a lot of discourse going around there. So a lot of the time I spent was listening and talking to people about these different ideas, and what was quite different about it from in-person sort of conversations and places is that you've got so many different traditions and perspectives that are coming together and that can come together in one place. And so there was a lot to bounce. There was a lot of stuff that was bouncing around in my head, but I eventually decided that I need to actually see what's going on in person and make sure that things are happening on the ground a little bit, so to say. And so once sort of the lockdowns and everything were dying down, I tried to look around for what organizations were around, and I think the one with the most presence that I could find at the time was the ISO. And so I ended up going along with a few of the meetings, and I just kept on going from then. Yeah, I think it's my introduction into organizing politics, I think. I'll let Oscar jump onto that, and then we can talk about the personal side of things, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, oh gosh. I grew up in Central Otago, so in Alexandra, so not the greatest of socialist scenes over there. And I kind of got drawn towards socialist ideas and stuff through, I guess a lot of people do these days, online. So yeah, a bunch of stuff just kind of started off progressive green politics, and all this makes sense, and wealth tax and all that fun stuff, and progressive policies, and just kind of went. And then I can't remember what it was, but some video on Marxism somewhere, and it's it just made sense, workers' control, workers' democracy, in society, it's the workers, the working class, who produce all of the value, and these people who primary means of making a living is just by owning stuff, and fundamentally through exploiting workers. It's this is a messed up system, and needs to get rid of it. So that was kind of a thought in my mind, for a long time. And I was in Central Otago, I'm I'm a socialist, and I just kind of existed. I was I have the correct opinion, and then I came to Dunedin a few years ago. I was at an O-Week. I was at an O-Week event, and I saw an ISO stall. I didn't go up to it. I was too nervous. I was oh, look at all these people who probably know way more than me, and yada, yada, yada. So I didn't go up to it. It was my first seeing of ISO. And I went on the website and stuff later on and was oh yeah, this all looks all well and good. But I didn't really get involved for a little while. I was content just having my right opinion. But then there was a climate rally of some kind. I don't really remember now. But climate rally, and an ISO member was giving a speech. It was very socialism-y, and it was just great, very inspiring. And then they went over and sat at the ISO stall, and I was right, I guess I should go over there. And then picked up a couple leaflets, looked at the material, decided to start going to the meetings, became a member, so on and so forth. So that's kind of the origin. did you want a bit about like what socialism means to us and all that?
Yeah. A little bit about what it is about socialism as a political practice and theory that really inspires and draws you in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of touched on it a bit at the start. Like, the system is quite clearly incredibly exploitative, incredibly unethical, and when there is like a clear alternative, like socialism, like democratic organization of society, not only like in government but in the economy of the workers who produce wealth. It's like that's just the only. It just makes sense to me. Like anything else, it's like great, yeah, like the Greens, Labour, like there's some like good like social policy, some good economic policy in there, but like fundamentally, like we need systemic change, and I feel like that's just an ingrained thought in my mind. And yeah, so socialism.
So true. Yeah, I guess for me, I sort of started off in maybe like a sort of an abolitionist sense of sort of things. I'm seeing people that are disenfranchised or are getting or the system isn't providing the outcomes for people that it wants to be or that it claims that it can. And I was looking for alternatives to sort of what sort of these things can be, and a part of, and obviously you stumble across this big world of socialism that's been around for so long, and there's so many traditions, and it's all a bit overwhelming. But then once you sort of get into the basic sort of tenets and the sort of those founding ideologies, I read like the principles of socialism or communism, I think, by Engels, and I was like, wow, that sounds interesting, but it's really weird. But I just kept looking around and reading things. At the same time, I was reading like weird psychoanalytic stuff, like Deleuze and Guattari, and then I read this Paulo Freire book, which sort of solidified me into socialism, even though it's not like I don't know if it's necessarily a foundational socialist text, but I think it sort of falls in line with that sort of revolutionary tradition, with that sort of idea that the systems are what's sort of sorting out, or what's making the issues so prescient, and the way that we're going to be able to have the outcomes, have the people deciding for themselves how to run the world and being in communion and really organizing the place for the health of everyone and everything that are here, that there needs to be major systemic upheaval, change to really provide for a healthy and strong human global world health society.
Yeah, and I guess when I first, because I spent a while as a teenage anarchist, as the song goes, before a friend of mine introduced me to the kind of Marxist wing of the socialist movement, and we were both voracious readers, and we had been reading zines and old books and stuff, and well, we kind of transitioned the old books that we were reading into kind of the Marxist classics, and also we were both big history nerds, so we read a lot of this kind of revolutionary history and found it incredibly inspiring. And yeah, definitely early on, especially when I was an anarchist, I was very motivated by a sense of injustice in the world, which I'm getting really strongly from both of you. And I think where I've gone since is I've kind of transitioned from a sense of injustice kind of by itself to a more intellectual feeling that whatever capitalism was 100, 200 years ago, when you could say, in a sense, it was revolutionary in the way it unleashed the kind of technical capacity of human society. It's just not fit for purpose. And that's kind of the one of the motivating feelings I have now, is that whatever you might be able to say for capitalism, for its many, many faults, but also for a few of the things that kind of allowed society to move forward, at this point in time, it really only seems to be holding human society back. And I also think that engaging with that broad history of socialism is it's really valuable. It's really insightful. You can see how people in their time and place were trying to think about and kind of sort out, well, how can we put the world on a kind of path of development that works for humans, that doesn't just work for kind of abstract notions of kind of technical progress or economic development, but to actually put society in the hands of the people that comprise it. I think in that there's definitely some similarities with where I've been and where I'm going, and the same for you both as well. I guess I'll take an opportunity here to spruik the Socialist Society for a bit, if only because they're paying me to, well, not paying me, but they're paying OAR for me to be here.
Go for it.
Our organisation, very focused on kind of the social and the educational question. So it's a matter of we are here to facilitate the education of the workers' movement in what way that we are able to. Can't claim that, we're going to be the ones that do all of it, but we're going to pitch in, where we can. And also facilitate the social life of the socialist movement, because there was a long-running joke that socialism was all about organisation, but it couldn't organise a piss-up in a brewery. Sorry, Dommy, for slipping up there. And we were determined to prove that at the very least, yes, we can do that. So we have our social events that everyone is welcome to come along to. They're meant to be there for the kind of socialist and progressive movement at large to just kind of engage with one another in a cordial setting. And that kind of facilitates our educational work as well, where I think a fundamental belief that motivates a lot of people in society is that the intellectual side of socialism is for everyone. That we're very firm believers in the idea of universal education, not just in terms of the actual education system, like the state education system, but the idea that kind of learning and engaging with culture and science and the intellectual side of human life is for everyone. And we completely reject the notion that it's only for, a certain subset of people who might be better formally educated, more wealthy, more able to engage in that side of things. We firmly believe that it's for absolutely everyone. That's kind of the motivating part of where we're at. Obviously, we also very much engage in active street politics, as it were, and union politics, and a member of the Christchurch member of the Canterbury Socialist Society is currently running for council up there, and I wish him well. But we engage, the point being that we engage with kind of the political and social life of New Zealand as well. That's not our only thing. The educational side of stuff isn't our only thing, but it's a big part of what we do. So we're getting towards the end. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I've got an event or two that's worth promote that I think I should give a promotion to towards the end, but I want to throw it to you to give a little promo for any upcoming ISO events that you think the listeners might be interested in attending.
Yeah, so as like the kind of semester kind of nearing the end, kind of winding down a bit, but we're still having our weekly meetings in the Otago room of OUSA. We have those on a whole range of different topics, like the stuff we kind of mentioned before. So any of those you can come along to. They're all don't have to be a member. You can just come along, listen, contribute.
Yep.
Stuff like that. all range of things that we talk about.
And
then-
the details for that?
Yes, so OUSA Clubs and Stocks building, 6 p.m. every Wednesday in the Otago room of OUSA. You can find more details on ISO's social media. Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, you're allowed to do that.
Yes, okay, good. On Instagram, it's ISO Otipoti. And on Facebook, it's like International Socialist Organisation or something like that. But then, big thing coming up, not exclusively ISO, but we're co-organising it with a bunch of unions, is a rally to defend the public service and to stand with, firefighters, nurses, teachers, and all public service workers who are under a great deal of attacks from the government at the moment. So definitely make an effort to come along to that. It is on the 4th of October. It'll be a march and a rally kind of thing. The march will start at 12 p.m. At the Otago Museum Reserve, and we'll march over to the Octagon and start things there at about 1. Definitely come along to that. All the details and stuff, you want to find it, again, on those socials. Not at the moment, but it will be soon.
An event that I actually think some ISO people are helping us out with via Otago Students for Justice in Palestine. The Otago Socialist Society will be hosting a film screening at, I believe it's 5:30 on 5:30 p.m. on the 5th of October, which is a Sunday, so Sunday the 5th of October. We will be hosting a fundraising film screening of the film Kneecap, which is a bit of an odd film. It's one of those films where the subject, it's a fictionalization with the subject of the film are playing themselves, the Irish hip-hop crew Kneecap. That outfit, that musical act have, of course, been in the news quite a bit for their very outspoken kind of political positions. Obviously, being a Northern Irish hip-hop act with the name Kneecap, that was always going to be the case. But they are particularly being very much harassed by officials for their outspoken support for Palestine, the outspoken position against the genocide being perpetrated there. So we're hosting a film screening. We will be raising funds over the course of that event. Half of those funds will be going to Otago Students for Justice in Palestine to contribute to your ongoing campaigning, which we're very much supportive of. The other half will be donated to the UNRWA, United Nations Relief... No, it's gone. UNRWA, anyway, one of the United Nations main relief organs. And the hope being that aid is able to get to Palestinians. Obviously, at present, it's extremely difficult to get any aid into the Strip. And I would direct the listeners to focus very, very, very much on the aid flotilla currently nearing Israeli coastal waters. And we hope that they're able to make it through, and we hope that the people who comprise that flotilla are able to do so safely. That's some upcoming events. Once again, I will give you the Spox. You have ISO events every Wednesday at Clubs and Societies on Albany Street, 6 p.m., did you say?
Yep.
Yeah, at 6 p.m. Keep an eye out for those if anything that has come up today interests you. And also... once again, film screening of the recently released, I think came out last year, film Kneecap, that will be raising funds for UNRWA, hopefully get relief into Gaza, as well as making a contribution to the Otago Students for Justice in Palestine to contribute to their kind of campaign costs as well. So we're getting to the kind of last phase of the episode, and that's where I will talk a little bit about some more cultural media-focused things in order to give kind of a positive low-key spin to the end of the episode. I, as always, have 2 things I bring to the table. It's always a minimum of 2. And as always, there is one New Zealand piece of media and one piece of media that's a bit of a free slot. I can kind of I give myself a chance to talk about what I like. So the New Zealand piece of media, there was 2 albums today. The New Zealand one is the album 4 by Beast Wars from 2019. Beast Wars are a kind of modern classic in the realm of New Zealand heavy metal. They've got some international standing. They're in that kind of realm of kind of sludgy, progressive stoner metal. It's stuff that's can be quite gnarly, but also has a lot of very interesting and technically proficient elements to it in terms of the musical styling. And a particularly big fan of a song of theirs. Well, first, the opening song, Raise the Sword, is actually extremely good as well. But Storms of Mars, the 3rd track on that album, absolutely fantastic. One of my favourite songs by any New Zealand musician ever. It gets me hype every single time. It's just one of those songs. And if you're interested in that particular kind of heavy metal or hard rock music, then yeah, I would absolutely, if you're looking for some New Zealand artists to kind of pad out the roster of what you're listening to, then I absolutely recommend Beast Wars. They're as I said, they're a modern classic. Ever since their first album, which I think was about 2011, I want to say that first album came out. They've just been making hit after hit, as it were, in terms of the quality of their output. And the other thing I'm going to suggest you give a listen to another heavy metal album. This one is an 80s classic. I do occasionally dip back into the past for my recommendations, and this time it is the 1989 Overkill album, The Years of Decay. One of the big thrash metal bands of the 1980s, Overkill, up there with the likes of your Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, more well-known bands, slightly less well-known in the public sphere or in kind of mainstream music, but definitely one of the major acts in that style. Overkill, very much worth listening to. Absolutely listen to some of their other stuff from the 80s as well, but I am suggesting The Years of Decay. Definitely has tracks on it that are that kind of extremely speedy, very raucous, very kind of the train is always threatening to go off the tracks kind of thrash metal. But it also has a lot of much slower paced songs as well. The actual song, The Years of Decay, the title track from that album, is an 8-minute long monster of a track that really kind of drags you through the gloom. It's got a very Sabbath feel to it. One of the few examples I can think of a band that tried to pioneer something of a thrash doom metal sound, which is a bit of an odd mixture given that one is very slow and one is very fast, but I think it works for them. I think the closest thing Overkill ever came to a hit, a song called Eliminator, is on that album. Definitely worth giving a listen to. And yeah, generally speaking, I think The Years of Decay, if you're kind of in the know in the realm of metal, then that's definitely an album that you're going to come across pretty quickly. But if you're a bit less kind of, deep into the woods when it comes to heavy metal and you are interested in heavy metal, then that's absolutely a strong recommendation for me for that album, The Years of Decay. Once again by Overkill, came out in 1989. And again, the other recommendation I made was Beast Wars, their album 4, which came out in 2019. So we're going to kind of to the last few minutes of the show. I want to throw it to you. You're able to, if you would like to, bring up a piece of media that you'd like to recommend, but otherwise I will give you the kind of slot to kind of give the ISO one last spruik before we get to the end of the show.
I'll quickly jump in with something I stumbled across last night.
Excellent.
It's on YouTube. It's called like Mola Mix So Mental That It Scares the Government or something, and it's this Thai Laotian sort of DJ that's made a mix out of what I'd say are quite sort of psychedelic rock sort of elements. I don't know if anyone has listened to cumbia music from Latin America, but it's got very much vibes like that, but interspersed with more traditional Thai Laotian pieces, which I think was quite cool because it was introduced by a large industrial action that happened in Thailand last year, and you will have to go and see that. Mola Mix So Mental That It Scares the Government, I think is what it's called.
Awesome.
Cool. not too musically, but something that I often listen to and very relevant, Red Flag Radio. It's a podcast produced by Socialist Alternative over in Australia. They've got some really great episodes on there. I particularly like the one on the Woolworths warehouse workers strike. So yeah, it's just a really interesting thing to listen to while you're out and about, while you're not listening to this amazing radio show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about Australian podcasts, I do have to throw one out for a podcast that I really enjoy. That I think it's definitely had some high-ranking kind of socialist alternative figures on it. Although I don't think it's a socialist alternative project, but A People's History of Australia. Great little podcast if you're interested in kind of social and that people's history kind of framework. Definitely worth giving a listen to. You've just kind of reminded me that it exists because I haven't listened to it for a bit. But yeah, so we're coming to the end here. Once again, I'm with Cian and Oscar from the Otipoti Dunedin branch of the International Socialist Organisation, a primarily but not solely campus-based socialist group. And I, of course, am your indefatigable host, Tyler West, here as always to give you a little bit of an interview from people around Dunedin from a socialist-leaning perspective. I'd like to thank you both for coming on. I enjoyed that.
Thank you so much for
really
having
good.
us.
Yeah, thanks for the
I think that was a good little choreo there.
I think so.
And for the listeners, you will hear from me again in roughly a month's time. This is getting towards the end of this show's lifespan. There's only a couple more episodes left before this show is closing things off. It's just come to a natural end. There's not really any particular reason for it. Beyond that, I am a very busy person that's now getting into the things are going to be very busy side of my PhD. To the listeners, you will hear from me next month. Tune in again. Once again, this is Left From Nowhere, a show on Otago Access Radio, 105.4 FM, 1575 AM. Absolutely give Otago Access Radio a look up online. Give them a follow on your relevant social media. And while you're at it, give both the Otipoti International Socialists and also the Otago Socialist Society a bit of a look on social media as well. If any of the events that either of our organisations host are of interest to you, then definitely give us both a follow on social media, and you will see when future events are being advertised. So I'm going to leave things off there. Thank you both for coming on. And once again, this is Left From Nowhere on Otago Access Radio, 105.4 FM, 1575 AM. You will hear from me again soon.
The White Sox stronger by the year. The White Sox stronger by the year. The White Sox stronger by the year. The answer's never clear. You walk upon the sphere. Keep walking.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.